Welcome back to Women Who Heal. Today I'm sitting down with Sally, who is a rapid transformational therapist just like me, and we're exploring the emotional, physical and spiritual landscape of perimenopause and menopause. Sally opens up about her anxiety, burnout and the generational trauma that shaped her, and how deep inner work, slowing down and redefining success helped her reclaim joy and connection. This episode is a heartfelt invitation to listen to your body, validate your experience, and embrace the transformation waiting on the other side of the fog. Hi, Sally. It's so lovely to have you here on the podcast today.
Hello, Natalie.
Bringing your expertise on a subject that is hot on everybody's lips at the moment. Talking about, obviously hormones, which is a big part of the work that I do with PMDD, but looking more into perimenopause and menopause now, which is an area that you're quite an expert in. So welcome. And the first thing I want to ask you is, we'll just dive straight in, because there's women listening and maybe men as well going, what do I do with my partner? This is a new frontier for us. This is, wow, I've heard of it, but now it's really hitting me. What do you want people to know? What's the thing you want to write across the sky?
I love that question, and thank you, Natalie, for having me. I've been following your work as well for quite some time, and I know you did a masterclass in the RTT workshop about PMDD, which I found fascinating, and it blew my mind because I was actually starting to work with someone who had PMDD, and the links between menopause and PMDD really started to show through, which again, it's these synergistic moments. But back to your question, what do I want to write across the sky, which I really love? Um, Menopause is not just an estrogen deficiency. I would write that across the sky, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say it's not just the hormones. It's the same. I have the same kind of message, in a different way. It's not just the hormones. Don't just think, oh, my hormones are making me crazy. It's not just that. So go on. What is it then? Explain. Anyone
Yeah.
listening to this podcast knows what I say, but what do you say?
It's a complete life transition.
Mhm,
It's a complete life transition if you
mhm,
fully get it. If you
mhm,
if you really get it. It's a metamorphosis, and
mhm,
a beautiful, amazing, incredible metamorphosis that I feel privileged to have gone through. I'm now out the other side. I am now post-menopause, which seems so weird to say, very early post-menopause.
mhm,
I
mhm.
started my journey when I was around, I would say 38,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
I'm now 49, hitting
Mhm,
50
mhm.
this year, which seems mad, but it's been a long, 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 long journey, and I feel like menopause has just wrung me out like this. It's like a kind of, when you wring out a flannel, it squeezes the essence out of you, so you become like this uber distilled version of yourself, like an essential oil. How.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the essence of Sally was just distilled out of you, just squeezed and distilled out of you through this process. I heard it once recently being referred to as like going through a ravine. And we can go through that ravine, like if you imagine water going through the Grand Canyon, a small little crevice. We could just sit back on the lilo and just be carried along, but we're like, ah! So we hang on to the walls of the ravine and scrape our hands and get stuck. And because it just feels like such a change, like everything's falling away. I'm 46 now and I can feel it's very difficult to explain. It's lucky there are women around me and girlfriends at a similar point in their lives that I can say, do you just feel like there's just a fog in front of you? And I'm not talking about brain fog. I just mean in front of your life. And you're like, where am I? What's happening? Where'd everything go? What's the next step?
Yeah.
Is that something you experienced? Just a feeling of,
Yeah, just sort of confusion, all the feelings. I mean, it was like being on a roller coaster of feelings. It all just came out, the rage, the anger, the despair, the confusion. And that's just sort of like the emotional stuff. I think the physical changes can tend to lead the emotional,
Mhm.
because you're having such physical changes, you're experiencing such physical changes, the emotional instability comes to the surface and you're having to navigate this sort of, it's like standing on a wobble board, like
Mm, mhm.
it's like
But
you need your core strength, and that core strength actually translates as, I think, a sort of like going with it, like being able to go with it. I wish I knew what I knew now,
Well,
actually.
well, that's what I want to ask you. So, here it's like I'm looking at you. It's like here's one we prepared earlier. Here's Sally. She's on the other side. She, she's been through it all.
Mm.
If you could get in a time machine and go back to yourself at 38 and go, oh my God, Sally, get ready. Like this is what's about to happen. What do you know now that you didn't know then that you wish, because there are equivalents of 38-year-old Sallys listening to this right now who are tuning in going, tell me what I'm in for. So what do you want 38-year-old Sally to know?
Do you know, that's actually brought tears to my eyes, that question.
Mm,
Um, because yeah, I do want her to know. Well, first of all, I want her to know it's happening for a reason. You're not going mad. It's meant to happen. Um, it's meant to feel difficult. Ride it, go with it. Don't blame yourself. There's nothing defective about you. Like, you are breaking down, you are turning to mush, and you
mm,
will figure it out. Like, you will watch all the YouTube videos, you will listen to all the podcasts, you will figure it out. So I think there is that spirit of determination within me, which has been helpful and also hindering. I think I would want her to actually relax, relax a bit, and to understand that stress makes menopause worse. So
mm,
don't be so ambitious. I would say to her. I would
mhm,
say to her, really, like, because it won't make you feel any better. I remember I was having this conversation actually yesterday with my therapist. In 2017, I set up Inspiring Talks Brighton,
mhm,
and the first event that I ran, and the reason I set it up, I wasn't an RTT therapist at the time. I was a singing teacher, but I wanted to, put myself out there. I wanted a platform to get new clients and to, you know, become more visible and all of that. And I thought that overcoming or facing this big demon would make me feel amazing. And you know what? The next
mhm.
day, I still felt like shit. I still felt awful. I felt
Yeah,
worse.
it's like the adrenaline hangover, isn't it? Where you just, oh my God. I often say that we think, oh, feel the fear and do it anyway. But sometimes that can be a terrible idea,
Yeah.
because you've pushed yourself and there was a reason the fear was there, and it was to protect a very vulnerable part of you. And before you just plow on, you
Yeah.
sort of need to look at, well, why is that protective mechanism in place? Go and heal what's behind it so that the protective mechanism can lower its guard, because otherwise you're just pushing through that protective mechanism. You're pushing through a shield, and that's gonna, scrape you. That's gonna hurt.
Yeah, definitely. And I wasn't showing up authentically. I know that now, because
Mhm,
now I am showing up authentically and it feels totally different. It feels relaxed, it feels calm. And I gave a talk, I delivered a workshop on Sunday to a group of women, and it just felt so different. It felt
mhm,
really natural, it felt really authentic. I had
mhm,
energy for it.
mhm,
It was a lovely kind of, there was a reciprocity there. I felt held as well as me
mm,
holding them. And it just felt
mhm,
so much more natural rather than me. I mean, it was even really indicative of what I created. I created this thing that became this really popular event where I was almost like the rock star of the event,
mm,
because
mhm,
that's what I thought I needed. I was still playing out that traumatized younger version of me. In fact, she was now really starting to come to the surface, that the wound was really starting to come to the surface, because backtracking a little bit, I've always been a singing teacher and a performer. And
Mhm.
I can see now where that came from, that
Mhm.
need to be adored by lots and lots of people because I didn't feel enough on the inside.
Yeah, it's like the Marilyn Monroe thing that we talk
Exactly.
about. You know, her mother didn't love her. Same with Princess Diana. Mother didn't love her, left her when she was very young, and needed the whole world to love her
Yeah.
to make up for that loss of unconditional love from the mother.
Yeah, definitely. And
Mm,
so when I started Inspiring Talks in 2017, I was at that age. I can't remember how old I just hit 40, actually, 40, 41.
mm,
And so I was really starting to enter perimenopause. So, excuse me, all of my the veil was starting to thin. And of course,
mm.
you don't know that that's happening. And I wish someone had told me that. Like,
Yeah,
deal with your stuff earlier. If you're having PMT,
yeah.
deal with it then.
Yeah, that's what I hope for myself, and it's been emotionally, it's been fairly good for me so far because I feel like I was forced into the monthly dark night of the soul with PMDD. There was no escape. It was either medicate it, or face it, or get an addiction. I don't know how people. Oh, we do know how people deal with it because it's. I work with women all the time, but it's not really something you can just avoid.
No.
I think perimenopause, for those who've never had PMS and just sort of coasted along, it's suddenly, okay, now everything can come to the surface if it hasn't been dealt with before. Sort of like a rite of passage, where you don't get to become the wise elder of the tribe without getting your wisdom, which means you've got to go through. Uh,
Yeah, you've got to be wrung out.
you've got to be wrung out. You've got to, yeah, exactly. All of that stuff's got to be wrung out. So, what else would you tell your younger self? What else does she need to know?
Um, exercise, exercise, and watch. I mean, these are kind of fundamentals, really, that I consider. So I've got this idea of the 4 levels of healing through menopause that I
Talk about
create.
that.
Yeah, so basically, for people that don't really know anything about the menopause transition and they start experiencing symptoms and they start researching, the first thing they will usually find is HRT.
Mhm,
So they
mhm,
might then go on HRT, and if all their problems are solved with HRT, great, no worries, they can just continue, crack on. If they're not solved, and usually they're not, if I'm honest, they
mhm,
tend to then go one level deeper, which is the lifestyle aspect. So the diet, the exercise, the sleep, the circadian rhythms,
mhm.
maybe implementing a little bit more rest.
Yeah.
So they might go, oh yeah, that's worked, and then they might stop with that.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
if that stops working, and usually it does for many people, then it's like, okay, maybe there's something deeper going on. Maybe there's something in me, in
mhm,
my subconscious, that needs looking at. That I need the help of someone else to look at this, because more often than not, without the help of um, a professional, it's hard to see your own blind spots.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to stay hidden, you know?
Oh
Our
yeah.
subconscious protective mechanisms are very, very happy to remain subconscious and don't particularly want to be found out and work very hard to prove themselves true and still useful so that you'll never ever, even if you became aware of it, you would still say, yeah, but I don't want to get rid of that because who would I be without that protective mechanism? You know, let's just say it was a fear of public speaking, just to think of something easy.
Yeah.
You go, well, I wouldn't want to lose my fear of public speaking because then I'd get up and public speak and I'm afraid of that. So I don't want to do that. And you sort of get stuck on a loop of not wanting to heal the thing that would make you feel better because you also believe it's protecting you. Yeah.
I see that a lot. I see that so much. And if ever I ask my client, I always ask my clients, how ready do you feel for change? And they usually say 100%. And then
Mhm,
I go in with, is there any part of you that's resistant to change? Because that's what I'm really interested in. And they'll
mhm,
usually say, yeah, I'm not quite sure who I'm going to be without the
mhm,
issue.
mhm. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so now we're talking about identity. And now we're
Yeah.
talking about changing the identity that a lot of people feel quite frightened of. And
Yeah.
this is what the invitation of menopause is. I am not the same person as I was pre
Mm-hmm.
perimenopause. The girl before was just driven by that super ego.
Yeah, that
Mm.
estrogen that just accommodates and accommodates and accommodates and just keeps you going and having babies and working hard and doing all the things and putting yourself second. And doesn't that work very well for everybody else? And that's, I think, the thing in those who've been doing that, which is the majority of women I find. Um, they've taken on too much and then yeah,
Yeah.
perimenopause, menopause says, yeah, this isn't going to fly anymore. This isn't
No,
going to work anymore for the next stage.
but essentially your inner child, the wounded inner child now gets a chance to speak.
Mm,
No, she's like screaming at you and she's begging you to listen to you, and she will create every symptom under the sun so that you stop and listen to her and take the
mm.
time, and hopefully then you come across something like RTT.
Yes, exactly. So you can make sense of it all and go and actually visit her and listen to her and feel exactly what she's feeling in back in time where these original wounds were created, which is so important. So we can, because half the time we have no idea where it comes from, or maybe we do, but we can't quite reach it. But so much of the time, and I know you would know this too, stuff goes back to the womb or to when you were 6 months old being left to cry it out, or something that was so insignificant, seemingly, that your adult mind goes, well, it can't have been that because it's so banal. But it's often things like that where, a child was helping her mother hang out the washing and she drops a peg. And so the mum says, oh, here, let me do it. Why would you think that was traumatic? But to that 3-year-old, that was a big moment. I was going to help mummy hang out the washing, and now she's taken that job away from me. I mustn't be capable. But
Yeah,
you never even think to look there because it can't be that. That's not trauma, surely.
there you
There's
go.
so many little moments like this that leave their mark and sort of set up a belief in us that end up becoming restrictive. It's interference in the way of who you really are.
Yeah, and I find that that is actually a trauma wound in and of itself, that sense that that is insignificant.
Mm, hmm
That to me, when someone says, "Oh, it really wasn't that bad," I'm
mm.
like, "Red flag, that's a trauma response."
Yes, look at you denying it. Yeah, and oh, it's not exactly, and that's exactly why has stayed stuck because you don't even think you have a right. You think children are starving in Africa. Who am I, with my amazing life, to complain? Or I remember a retreat I went on. I was 22 and pregnant, and I was like, I need this before this baby is born. I need to sort my shit out. Like there was stuff that I could still. You could just poke me, and I'd come to tears over certain subjects. I thought I've got to heal this. And the first day of that retreat was called denial, where we get to go, yep, you're going today, we're going to everything you've denied, everything you've said, no, it's fine, everything you've said, no, it's not that bad. We're giving you full permission to go, actually, it was that bad. And this is how I feel. And that is actually the first step to stop denying and pretending that it was okay. It wasn't okay.
Yeah, I think that's what I would like to go back and tell my perimenopause self, actually. Like, what you're going through is valid. Like, all these feelings,
Mm,
it's not just your hormones. And, it would rile me so much if my husband ever said, "Oh, is it that time of the month again? Is it probably just your hormones?" And
mm.
I'm like, it's not just my hormones. Like, there's a reason I feel like this.
Yeah, and it's magnified, of course, and I think this is the sad thing because what happens is the reaction becomes so big, especially if you're triggered. It is something about the past. You're not really upset for the reason you think. You have this huge outburst, usually at the one closest to you. They, of course, are appalled at this attack and like, excuse me, no, I'm not going to apologize now that you come at me that way.
Mhm.
And so now, and then you end up feeling, I'm wrong, I'm bad, and you feel guilty, and you just end up apologizing. And the initial thing that was the problem never really gets addressed. It just gets swept back under the carpet again.
Yeah.
Um, which I try and help my clients because it's not great to attack your partner, but to come. I love this Brené Brown thing. She says, "The story I'm telling myself is."
Yeah.
That way you get to say it, but it's not an attack. You're admitting, like, this is, I'm believing this completely right now. The story I'm telling myself is, you don't care about me. You're not interested in me. You'd prefer to be somewhere else. This is the story I'm telling myself. And then your
Mm,
partner can hear that, but say, oh gosh, really? Oh,
mm,
darling, why do you feel like that? You've managed to express yourself, but not saying, you don't care. um, it's not an
yeah.
attack then. But it's not
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
to come from vulnerability, because when you're in of that vulnerable, triggered state, of course you want to defend and attack and
Mm,
express hurt. Yeah,
yeah.
so that's something to learn.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
So physical things, because
Yeah.
you said there's physical stuff that then sort of leads into emotional stuff. You've been there, you're on the other side, and I also want to hear what it's like on the other side, but the physical symptoms.
Yeah. Sure.
Could you go through the one, I mean, the ones you experience, and then others that you know are common? I know that I read somewhere there's like 70 symptoms of menopause. Oh, this looks like fun.
Yeah.
So what do you know about the
Well,
fifth?
my first symptom was anxiety,
Mhm.
and actually overwhelm. So it's almost like my brain would sort of short circuit and send this sort of flood of adrenaline into my system, and I would get these heart palpitations, and then just panic would set in, and this overwhelm. When I and it would be linked to the sort of motion, actually. So when I was walking down the street, I sort of, oh, everything felt overwhelming. Um,
Mm, mhm,
I used to ride a motorbike, and when I stopped at the traffic lights, I would get a panic attack because I wasn't moving. I find when I was moving, I had to stop in the end riding. And so that was the first thing. And then I noticed this sort of upper little paunch appear in my stomach.
mhm.
I noticed, what else did I notice? It was mainly the anxiety for a very, very long time. And then night sweats, actually. So I didn't
Mm,
have hot flushes during the day for a long time, but night sweats. I
mhm,
noticed different temperature in me and my partner.
mm, mhm,
Then it was really when the insomnia kicked in and the burnout kicked in, that's when I realized it was perimenopause. So I was just sort of continuing to behave like a early 30-year-old and
mm,
doing, I was building inspiring talks, and I was running these events, and I was doing gigs myself. I was training in RTT, and eventually I was on tour with a band, and it was a 10-day tour, and I didn't sleep for the entire.
oh gosh, you'd be ragged.
I was crying, I didn't wanna
Mhm,
get on stage, I was missing my boyfriend, he's now my husband, um, I was homesick, it was just and nobody around me knew what was going on, and of course, most of them were boys, and most of them were, like, 20.
mhm. Relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, and of
Um,
course, I'd put myself in this situation because of my childhood trauma and kind of addiction to sex, basically. Let's just call it what it is.
mhm,
No shame now.
mhm,
Um, and so, I would find myself in these really wild situations, which, of course, in your 20s, fine, you get the train with a hangover, no problem. Put your dark glasses on, and it's quite cool. You feel quite cool. But when I was about 42, I think, it was utter trauma. I had
mhm,
panic attacks on stage. I never ran off stage, but um, I wanted to.
mhm,
And then after that, when I came home, I thought I'd be fine. But I'd created a pattern of not sleeping. And of
mm.
course, insomnia can be like a learned behavior in the end. And kind of,
Yeah, sure, the more you don't sleep, the more you start to worry about not sleeping, and then that worry about not sleeping keeps you up, and I've got to
Yeah.
sleep, I've got to sleep, and then the stress of not being able to sleep is the thing. And like so many coping things, you think it's going to get you one result, but it gets you the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when it started to get really bad. And then I learned how to sleep again. Well, then the pandemic hit and everything started to calm right down and I started to set boundaries and I learned more about menopause. I went on a bit of a journey of learning about what this thing was that I'm going through and then things started to really improve as I set more boundaries, understood myself better, and could work from home. I wasn't traveling here, there, and everywhere, and then I actually became quite reclusive
Mhm,
for a while.
mhm.
And I'm now starting to get back out into the world. Now I'm postmenopause, tentatively coming into that second spring.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's the cocoon, isn't it? It's this, I have to just pull back. And it's very instinctual to just pull back and take yourself away into this cocoon for these changes to happen.
Felt
So
really lovely,
with,
actually.
with the anxiety, being on that motorbike and stopping at the lights and this anxiety coming over you, um, what happened then with working with that? What did that link back to, if you want to share, or if it's
Yeah,
because it,
totally.
'cause it brings these things up, um, and it's not just the hormones though. So what did you learn about that anxiety and what it had to
Oh my God.
that it was setting off? What was it there to teach you? What was driving it deep down?
Perfectionism. Yeah, and oh,
Mhm,
I've got
mhm,
goosebumps all over. I'm an only child,
mhm, mhm.
and my dad. So I have this very weird dynamic with my mum and dad. My dad is Sicilian, so
Mhm.
he's quite headstrong
Yeah,
and
fiery Italian. Mhm.
yeah, very much like power over. Not it's he. How can I put it? My dad came from a very poor family and made something of himself.
Mm.
And because of that, in a patriarchal society, that can work for men, but it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily work for women. That kind of grit and
Yeah,
determination.
that grind and hustle and keep going, and yeah, it's not really yeah, it doesn't work in the
No.
cycle, which is a completely different one to the menstrual
Yeah.
cycle. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, and it here for him, he's all about adrenaline. So he was a motorcycle racer.
Mm.
He sold motorbikes. It was engines. It was fast and furious. And I became really addicted to speed and
Mhm.
the drug and actual speed. Yeah,
Speed in all its forms. That'd be great, right?
yeah, yeah. So you can see the profile starting to emerge. This jacked up, sympathetic, uh, fight flight. And my trauma response is very much flight.
Mm.
Um, so, and then my mum on the other side of the spectrum was a very sweet English rose and
Mhm.
became very sort of overpowered by my dad. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't see much. I didn't see boundaries. I just saw a lot of people pleasing, self
Yeah.
betrayal.
Yeah.
And so I was torn, always. So I have always had perpetual conflict. Um, my dad was kind of sexy and alluring, and there was weird enmeshment stuff
Mm.
going on there as well.
Mm.
And then my mum, who I perpetually felt sorry for and felt
Yes.
like I
Yes.
had to hold.
Yes, you have to stand up for her, speak the words you wish she'd say for herself, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and being an only child, there was no deflection.
No, triangulation, yeah, melting pot. Like we've got three people here. One of them's the hero, one of them's the bad guy, and one of them's the victim. Which role am I going to play? And I suppose you would have fallen into that hero
Yeah,
against the bad guy to save the victim. Is that what happened
yeah,
for you?
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely, definitely. I was also the golden child as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And I developed this precociousness. this sort of like old before my time. Everyone used to go, "Oh my God, you're like
Mature.
really mature. God, she's so old for her age. Oh, isn't she lovely and mature?" And it's like it's a trauma response.
Yeah, not letting I don't get to be a kid, so this I'm gonna have to take this on my own shoulders. I'm gonna have to do this myself. Yeah, that hyper independence is, and then we're praised for it. So we think, so we never look to, gosh, I didn't feel held and supported and safe. I felt like I had to carry it myself. And this is the overwhelm that you're
Mhm.
feeling, or that you felt. And this is probably one of the most common things I see in my clients. And it's just this generational thing because I just wrote about it last week and I just sent an email out about it today about, a daughter sees this mother taking everything on, overwhelmed, stressed, not looking after herself, putting herself last. And the daughter just feels like, gosh, well, I can't ask for anything. She'll any more on her shoulders and she will break, and I can't have that. So I'm just going to swallow my own needs down. I'm going to take as much of mum's plate as I can. As soon as I'm old enough, I'm going to go get a job. So I'm just as independent as I can. I'm going to do it. I just don't want to be any trouble, and I've got to help mum. This
Mm,
is the profile that happens, and then that daughter grows up, and she can't ask for support or help, and she becomes a mother, and the same thing happens again. She's taking everything on. She can't ask for support. She doesn't want to be a burden on anybody.
yeah.
Her daughter watches that and says, "Well, I can't burden her further. I'll carry everything," and this goes on and on and on until someone finally breaks the breaks the chain. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that generational trauma, isn't it, that we learn through the DNA, but also through observed behaviors through osmosis and those trauma responses. So,
Mm, mm.
yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. And still unpicking it, always still unpicking it, especially as my parents get older
Mm,
too.
mm. So you were able to. So when you think about, it's interesting that you were on the motorbike, and when what sort of made my ears prick up, it was when you stopped that the panic kicked in.
Mm,
Like, I got to keep going, got to keep moving, and it's always so metaphorical with the subconscious mind that that hustle, that moving, that go, that never stop, that keep on the hamster wheel. Don't you slow down. That when you did slow down, and that when you had to be idle, y- your mind went, ah,
yeah.
what happens if I stop?
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed the restlessness, that
Hmm.
pattern of restlessness in my
Hmm.
dad. He can't stop. He's
Hmm. Hmm.
90 and he has to have something in the diary. They've got holidays booked, they've got trips to the theatre booked. And,
Mm,
and if he gets ill, oh my God, it's like I mean, he's got narcissistic tendencies, and we know that people with those narcissistic tendencies cannot be ill because it shows a flaw in
mm,
their
mhm, mhm.
character. So the defenses come down. And so, yeah, it's like all hell breaks loose when he gets ill. Anyway, I digress a little bit. Flight mode. Yeah. So I've just learnt really. It's a learnt behavior. You have to, if you want to change, you have to learn how to change behavior. And that
Mm,
in and of itself is a whole science behind that. And being able to sit with discomfort, but understand why you're sitting with that discomfort.
yeah. What are you running from in the present moment? Because we all know, everything is now. The now is the window to eternity. There's all that exists is now. Yet so many of us just can't be here. We're like,
Mm,
okay, what's next? So blah blah blah, and always a plan, and always a running to the next. And actually, not. I love this the way Alan Watts, the philosopher, talks about it because he's obviously back in the hippie days of the 60s and 70s and talking about digging something. When the hippies used to say, "I dig that, man." Digging means going deeper into it right now. And I've really been learning to dig things because I haven't even, using the metaphor of wringing things out, I haven't even come close to wringing out everything that's right here already in the present moment. I haven't even come close to appreciating everything I have right now.
Yeah.
And I'm already on to the next. What's next? Like, well, slow down. And I feel like this perimenopause for me has been, I'm like, so what's next? And that inner guidance in me is going, no, no. You don't get to see the next step until you can show me that you can stay here and just be. I'm
Mm,
going, okay, yep, I'm being, yep, so anyway, good. So what's next? It's like, no, 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 no. Stop. You have to surrender and you need to learn to be present. I felt
mm,
like that was all my inner guidance was giving me for about a year. Just when I went to Australia and then when I came back to Denmark, um, that's what it was like. It was just almost like this fog in front of me saying, you don't get to move forward until you learn to be where you are. And I think I've got really good at it. And do you know how I know I've changed? I've always been so against getting a dog. The kids have been like, please, mom, please, please, please. I'm like, no, God, who would get a dog? What a nightmare. Like, and now I feel like getting a dog. There's something calling me to having a puppy because they're so present.
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think, wow, something must have happened to me that I now not just don't not want a dog, but I want a dog. I want
Yes. The
it's
desire is there.
the desire is there because it's about being here, enjoying what I have now, and I don't need to know what's coming next. Um, and when you've got a dog, you're sort of forced to stay in the moment. And I think I was like, no, I don't want that. But
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I
There's
do.
definitely a rejection to that, can't there?
Mm. So
Mm.
did you experience it with so realizing, okay, I'm at the traffic lights and now I don't like not being able to move, being a metaphor for,
Well, that was very, very early days, actually. I was probably 36 when I had the motorbike. But yeah, metaphorically, that pattern, how you do anything is how you do everything. Right? You probably
mhm.
heard that
Yeah,
expression or something like it.
true.
And so that pattern did follow me through until I hit burnout.
Mm,
And so burnout slowed me down. It's that stress cycle, isn't it? We become jammed up with that when we
yeah.
can't decrease our arousal, we become jammed up in arousal. And I think just my body was just in that permanent state of anxiety. And I would have these episodes of burnout, which I don't get anymore.
Mhm.
And that is amazing. I haven't had a good episode of burnout. I say good because I quite enjoy them.
Like, oh, good. Yeah, it's a real body says no moment where it's like, oh, thank you, body, for finally standing up for me because I just wasn't going to stop.
Right.
Yeah, and it'll always be that. I find that with migraines in clients too. Very often the migraine is the thing that says, do you know what, if you're not going to lie down in a dark room, I'm going to make you.
Mm.
Um, it's a forced rest, migraine. And burnout is the same. Brain fog is a similar sort of thing. It's just you. And what I was talking about before is that you're not getting the next step. I'm not going to even tell it to you. Stay like a dog. Stay, no, stay. You've got to be here. Can you handle it? Can you
Yeah,
just
that's
be here in
brilliant.
this moment?
That's a brilliant metaphor. Yeah, for sure. I had a dog actually for a couple of years and it really did change my body chemistry, and it really does. It does make you more present, but I don't think I got the message because I felt quite trapped,
Mm, mhm,
unsurprisingly,
mm,
with a
mm, mhm,
flight response. And we rehomed him. There was a lot of other stuff going on. We live in a flat and we were trying to move and our house sale fell through. And we did find some really lovely other parents for Joey, and he's now incredibly happy. So
mm,
I don't feel guilty about rehoming him, but the pattern was interesting. And
mm,
it definitely brought me and my husband closer together. And now we're kind of um I don't know, we're not living separate lives, but we've got our own interests that are potentially taking us away from each other. So we're having to work on that at the moment. But I'm digressing again. What was the question you asked me?
Oh, what was the question?
Oh,
Gosh, this is we just go round the houses. I said we'd do this. I said, yeah,
yeah,
we'll have an initial question and then the conversation is going to go all over.
yeah,
So I think I was talking about, you with um, the anxiety after. like getting to the bottom of that. How does it feel now, and what did it take? What did it require for you?
That's right, the
We're talking about
slowness.
burnout and being where the body says no, when the body
That's
burns
right.
out,
Thank you for
um,
that.
and can we can we say no before our body does? Is what it's all about, isn't it? And that's what I
Yeah.
think the gift of menopause is. I sometimes call it the Helen Mirren effect, because she's just so so nope. The first thing I would teach my daughter if I had a daughter is the first phrase I'd teach her is how to say fuck off.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's funny. Um, yeah. So what did all of that teach you, and how is it now? Like, do you have to become burned out, or are you like, well, I know how to manage myself and get the
Mm.
rest, and I'm able to do that now. How is it now for you?
Yeah, it's really starting to come into its own now, actually. I had a spate of something last year, so I got involved. Exercise is really important, but I got involved with this personal trainer who was really, really good. I really enjoyed her, and it was right for the time. She was a strong man. She competed in strongman competitions, and
Hmm.
so I was working with her to really build strength because that's really important. But I
Yeah.
got to a point where I remember, like, I was thrusting. I had 80 kilos on this bar, and I was
Mm,
thrusting it up, and my body and my mind just went, nope, we're done.
mm,
I lost the will. I completely lost the will, and I said to her, I'm done. I need some time out. Like, let's regroup again in a month's time. But I couldn't find that energy to do that anymore. And I noticed that actually the more I was doing weightlifting, I had this surge in testosterone. And again, I was zipping around, I was driving really fast again. I was like, oh my God, like this feels good, but it also, there's something that doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel like this should be happening at this time in my life. And I was reading about wintering, this concept of wintering,
mm,
that
mhm,
Kate Codrington talks about in her book Second Spring.
mm,
And I was starting to get a lot of joint pain.
mm,
And I wasn't able to recover from the workouts quickly. So
mm,
I decided to stop, and I went very much into like, right, okay, okay, I think I get it now. You need to flex, if you like, the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. So this is going to be really difficult for you, Sally, because this is going to feel like you're not doing enough.
mm.
Okay, so if you feel like you're not doing enough, you're probably on the right lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Mm,
started to do like trauma release work, very, very small movements, very light exercise, um, walking, just rocking, like stimming, kind of backwards and forwards, which is
mm.
very, very soothing for the nervous system. Um, and interestingly as well, all my friends have left. So it's like, okay, it's just
Well,
me.
all your friends have left Brighton, or
Yeah, so my best friend sold her business and moved to Spain. Um, and
okay, so yeah, everyone's just moved away, and you're okay. Well, this is good timing because there's no temptation to get out and get too busy. Mm,
yeah, exactly.
mhm,
So and I've been having sort of ongoing therapy as well, which has been really useful for me as a therapist to understand myself deeper. I've found that really, really lovely. And as an only child, that doesn't, I don't have a lot of social support, particularly because I've moved away from like my best friends and, from childhood friends and stuff. So having a therapist for me has actually been a really like loving, kind thing for me to do, to have that in the diary every other week and just to be held in that space. And because
yeah.
I am a therapist, I can kind of work through my stuff quite easily on my own. So that's been a really lovely, nurturing thing to do for myself, to have that space held.
Mm,
It's just slowing it all down and just enjoying the simpler things in life. So having I call it "I love my boring life." I think you might have seen that
And
post.
you did. I saw that post. I love my boring life. I don't want to be a rock star anymore. I don't have any grand dreams. And this is another thing that I've felt in myself too. It's this humility that comes in.
Mm,
And it's such a lovely relief. It's just, you know what? I'm not all that. I'm not so special. And it's not a self esteem dump. It's a, ah, I'm just like everyone else. Isn't that wonderful? And it's really a connecting thing. I think you noticed when you were doing this workshop and you went, you felt so authentic, you felt held because you weren't making yourself this big, I'm the speaker and I'm on the pedestal and you're all down there and I'm one of you. And we're
yeah,
all in this together and we're walking each other home and all this. It's such a beautiful thing to happen, the humility where you just drop all that stuff and the ego just releases its grip and you just go, oh, um,
I love that. It's so yeah, and I had that realization as well. I'm like, I'm average, and that's okay.
mhm, mhm,
Because I spent so many years in my 20s thinking I was going to be this rock star, thinking I was something really, really special and important. And of course, I am really special and important, but not in the way that I
mm,
thought I was,
mm,
in a
mm.
very humble, compassionate, kind way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where you realize I'm a human being. I don't know how I got to be here. I'm not responsible. Like by some miracle, I'm alive.
Mm,
And it's this humility to I'm a miracle. I'm incredible. Not but it's not my doing. And it's an appreciation of that. It's not egotistical. It's the opposite. It's giving up the ego and just thank you for this life. Thank you that I get to be here. And
yeah.
mm,
Yeah, definitely. It feels incredibly different. It feels softer. It feels more grounded. And actually, I'm very interested in the energetic approach to menopause as well, and how our energy dynamic changes through the body. How our chakra system sort of shifts from this sacral dominant to more kind of throat and heart dominant, where
mhm.
we start expressing our truth, we're more heart led
Yeah.
and potentially rooted as well. So the root chakra, and grounding, putting your bare feet on the earth really helps with those hot flushes,
Mhm.
because we need that anchoring down to Mother Earth. It's that connection to Mother Earth that our body and our spirituality, the spiritual dimension is really calling for as well. So there's
Mm,
so many different ways that there's so many paradigms that you can look at menopause through.
mm, mhm,
Um, and when we finally get that message, I feel that we can, um, find our place in the world, and that brings more meaning and connection, and more like, oh, okay, this is like, it feels more purposeful, more meaningful.
mm.
Yeah, so I love
So
that.
So when a woman comes, because it's been your own journey, and so often is the way when it's our own journey, we feel like, okay, I'm on the other side. I want to Sherpa others through this. I want to lead others through the same thing that I went through. I've got the map now. That's how I feel with PMDD, and I'm sure I'll feel that way too on the other side of menopause. But when a woman comes to you, what's your message? What's your approach? How do you work now with the map that you have?
So, I mean, I do it through the RTT work. So I call it a 30-day transformational rapid rewire.
Mhm,
And within that, it's an RTT session, it's a bit of coaching, and it's within a 30-day package. And
mm.
essentially they come to me because they recognize that there is something within them. So they will have to be at that sort of third level down through the menopause.
Yes, I've tried the medication, I've tried the yoga, the
Yeah.
supplements, and still I wanna punch somebody, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So there'll
mm,
be a predominant presenting problem like anxiety, or
rage,
yeah, or
depression.
like depression. It's usually something emotional, or
Yeah,
rage, or
mm,
low confidence. And I will I will sort of ask them what are they telling themselves? What's
Yeah.
the
What's the head?
predominant narrative?
Mm,
And they'll normally say something like, oh, I just can't, I can't put my needs forward, or it's not safe to, I just feel totally scared of confrontation or something like that, or I'm
mm,
petrified of driving,
mm,
um,
mhm,
whatever it may be, and we'll do the regression and we'll excavate and do all of that. But the central theme really is, I call it like, no wonder. No wonder I am the way that I am. No wonder I have these issues. And there's a real big sigh of relief because they get to really, oh, I'm not crazy. Like,
It
I can
makes
see it so clearly now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It all makes complete sense. And don't you find that working with people, before I trained in this, you'd look at perhaps I'd look at someone who was really overweight and go, "Oh my gosh, why don't they just,
Yeah.
exercise and eat less?" Or how could you let yourself get? I would be judgmental.
Hmm.
That's just an example. It could be other things as well, like, "Oh, why has he got such a bad temper?" Or why doesn't this person just?
Yeah.
And then you work with the person and you see the underlying root cause and you think, but for the grace of God, go I, that
Hmm.
that wasn't my coping strategy.
Yeah.
Um, and you realize, no wonder.
Yeah.
And I say that to my kids and I say to everyone, if you really knew why, you wouldn't judge.
Exactly.
There's
Exactly.
there's always there's always a valid reason for why a
And I,
person is the way they are.
yeah. And
Mm,
it instills so much compassion.
mhm.
When you can see that and you get that no wonder, then the compassion starts to really bubble up. And then that's when we can go in with the, I don't need to do this anymore. I've got myself, I can back myself, all the kind of growthy type stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But
when you can bring in the compassion for yourself, that's the important thing. When you can, yeah, like you said, when you say, "Wow, no wonder I set up that coping strategy. No
yeah,
wonder I got that fear." Oh, instead of, because what we do, don't we, is we'll have the problem and then we'll judge ourselves for having the problem. Oh, why can't I lose weight? What's wrong with me? Oh, why am I so emotional? What's wrong with me? And
mm,
so there's shame piled on top of the original shame.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you think you're
yeah.
defective, don't you? And then
Yeah,
it's that self-criticism starts to really get its tentacles in and it locks in that problem even further.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to
Mhm.
get to that no wonder to then get to the, what I call the coming home to self. So that is predominantly what my RTT recordings are around, is that coming home to self. So bringing all your parts back to you, aligning yourself. Maybe there might be something in there around boundary setting, or um, connecting with the inner child, or something around shifting habits or behaviors. But essentially it's just that reinforcement of, it's safe to be me.
Yeah,
Essentially it's
thank
safe to be
you.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, safe to be me. Because they're the three things, aren't they? And safety's such a big one, and maybe really it all boils down to safety. They say we need to be loved, we need to be safe, and we need to belong.
Mm,
But really, all those things, like I need to be loved so I feel safe, I need to belong so I feel safe. Really, it's all about safety,
yeah.
feeling secure, safe, that we're going to survive. What do I need to do? Who do I need to be in order to survive?
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Definitely.
safety is what it all boils down to at the end of the day.
It really does. And when I look back onto my anxiety, well, I shouldn't say that, the anxiety.
Remember your training. Yeah, never put
Exactly.
exactly why Sally stopped herself then. If anyone doesn't know, the rules of the mind is that you never put whatever you put after my, you are making it part of you. So you don't ever say my PMDD, my anxiety, my depression. The anxiety I experience sometimes, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the anxiety you used to experience, go on.
I've got a brain fart now. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry, oh the joys. I've taken you right off track.
I'm so zen. I'm just in the moment.
That's
Yeah.
right. That was 3 seconds ago. I can't be
Yeah.
expected to.
No,
No,
sorry.
no,
It's
that, that,
gone.
that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. So we'll finish up in a minute, but closing, a bit like how you entered with what do you want women to know, just with everything we've been all around and back and around and forward and back again. What would you like to finish with?
Mm.
And also tell people where they can find you. I'll put it in the show notes anyway if people want to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do and how you help with this perimenopausal menopause emotional physical journey. Um, what would you
Yeah,
like to end with?
I've just remembered what I was going to say, which I
Oh,
think is
okay,
quite
good. We'll
poignant
say that
actually.
as well.
Yeah, the anxiety that I experienced in the past was probably down to not feeling safe as I was because I had a
Yeah.
father with such high expectations.
Hmm.
So it was always like I've got to be better, I've got to do more. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not enough, right?
Yes, I'm not enough. That's right. I can't stop because it's like I always say it's like being on a mountainside on a treadmill and you're trying to get to the top, but it resets every day. That belief just keeps you going, going, going. You can't stop. You're not there yet. You're still not good enough. And in order to be safe, in order to avoid punishment or humiliation or rejection, you got to keep going. You got to prove. You've got to earn your worth. It's such a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, especially for Gen Xers and millennials as well, whose parents were raised by kind of post-war baby boomers who had that real sort of stiff upper lip thing going on, that the emotional suppression. So I would say don't discount the deep work. And also I would like to say doing the deep work is not as scary as you might think it is.
Mm-hmm. What I always say, because you have clients say, "Oh, I'm afraid of what's going to come up," and I go, "Do you know what's scarier? Is it's underneath in the subconscious right now, running your life. Don't you think that's scarier? It's not like you're if you don't go and look at it, you're avoiding it. It's already in there. Except you, it's like a I don't know, like a monster in the closet or something. It's there. It's not like it's not in there. You're living with it right now. Don't you want to bring this out and dissolve it so it stops, pulling the strings from behind the scenes and creating a life that's not really authentically you?
Yeah.
No, it's never as scary as you think. You think it's scary, but once you're going in and you're looking at it with adult awareness, you think it's scary because child you thought it was scary. But when big grown up you goes in and has a look at it, it's like, oh, were you afraid of that? It's not as bad as you think. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually really, really interesting.
yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
beautiful. And when you have those, what I love about hypnotherapy is it gives us access to the somatic felt sense
Mm,
that we
mhm.
don't have when we're just talking. And so it's an opportunity for you to feel those feelings. And
Yes.
actually, there is a build up of pressure before we feel a feeling or before a feeling comes out, whether that's anger or crying. And I think that build up is what people link to anxiety or panic or fear. It's just honestly, it's just like having a poo. It really is. It's like there's a build up and a release, right? Which is great.
In, yeah.
Yeah. Or a
That's
burp.
really good. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
And it feels great. It's just sort of, I don't know why as a society. Well, I do know why, because emotional suppression or emotions are linked to shame, really. But
Mm,
I think it's changing. And I also think that's why menopausal women really have the potential to be change makers in the world because we
mm,
have no other choice than to feel our feelings and to process them, metabolize them, squeeze the juice out of them, and come out the other side as this we know how powerful an essential oil is. But when we're
mhm,
post menopause, we have become that essential oil,
mm,
so
mhm,
we have incredible power in the world.
mm,
And when we really own it, it just feels good.
mhm.
I'm starting to feel pretty fantastic at the moment.
Yeah. I know, you look great and you look really alive and it's like the second half of your life. I was sort of in my mind going, "Oh, well, you know, it's all downhill from here, another 20 years." Like, no, hang on a minute. I'm probably going to live till I'm 90.
Mhm.
I'm only halfway. This is like, what's the next half then? There's
Yeah.
years and years and years left.
Yeah.
It's very exciting to see what I do next on the other side of the metamorphosis. Got my
Yeah.
butterfly around my neck.
Love it.
So I've had this since I was 19. This necklace, yeah. So it's sort of, yeah, had it on most of the time, except when I haven't felt like a butterfly for a few years there. I put it in a box, but I pulled it out again and it suits me now very well. So
I love it.
yeah, well, thank you so much, Sally, for sharing your journey and your wisdom and being so open and just so nice. I think one of the biggest things for people is to feel they're not alone, and that just to go, oh my gosh, good, it's not just me, is one of the most wonderful things we can do for each other. So thank you for sharing your story so truthfully and openly.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Thank you so much for joining me on Women Who Heal. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more women who might need this message of hope and healing. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it, a friend, a sister, or someone in your community. You can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Ryan Hebert and at the Red Tent PMDD. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there.